We are going to be talking about the comments made, speaking of women's bodies and wayward men and politicians. We're going to be talking about the comments made at the Pennsylvania Senate debate last night between Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman and TV Dr. Mehmet Oz. And now I'm joined by reporter Molly Shaw, who has been covering the Supreme Court and covering issues of reproductive justice for The Real News. You can go to therealnews.com and check out some of Molly's work. She joins us today from Berlin, Germany. Molly, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello, Kim. Good to see you as always.
Full disclosure, Molly is the social media coordinator for Burn It Down with Kim Brown. So yes, we know each other, but Molly is still a big boss at her beats that she covers, especially pertaining to reproductive justice. So Molly, I'm going to ask you about the comments made by Justice Alito, regarding how terrified he is about the changing political discourse. And, why would people want to cause him violence? He's just out here stripping rights away from people. Why would anyone be mad at him? We'll get to those comments in just a moment. But first, I wanted to begin with what Dr. Oz said in response to a moderator's question surrounding the issue of abortion at the Pennsylvania Senate debate last night. Let's take a look.
What are your thoughts on Alabama and these anti-abortion laws that they're passing in Alabama?
I'm really worried about it. There's going to be a big sucking sound of businesses leaving there. It's big time concern because I went to medical school in Philadelphia and I saw women who'd had coat hanger events. I mean, they're really traumatic events that happened when they were younger, before Roe versus Wade. And the other thing is this whole thing about heart beating. Mm-hmm. I mean, their electrical changes at 6 weeks, but the heart's not beating. If someone deep in their heart feels that the moment of conception is a human life, they can't get ignored, but that doesn't mean that's what the rule of the land is. We have so much we got to do already to take care of each other. To start picking fights on this, I always wonder about it. Is this really the way we would spend our time? I wouldn't want anyone in my family to have an abortion, but I don't want to interfere with everyone else's stuff because it's hard enough to get into life as it is. But I don't want to interfere with everyone else's stuff. I don't want to interfere.
There's Mehmet Oz making what sounds like to me very rational observations around abortion, but that is not the position that he has taken now that he is the GOP candidate for Pennsylvania senator.
Yeah, so a woman, your doctor, and your elected official. That's like who should be in the hospital, or, in the examining room with you is your elected official and your doctor. Maybe just your elected official at this point.
Why do we even bother? Because I'm listening to, first of all, obviously that attack ad, I would love to know where that attack ad came from. It looked like perhaps he was being interviewed somewhere on XM. Okay, well, here are the debate comments from last night. Let's take a look.
You say that you're pro-life, but you do support abortion exceptions in the cases of rape, incest, and to protect the life of the mother. Aside from those three exceptions, should abortion be banned in America? 60 seconds.
There should not be involvement from the federal government in how states decide their abortion decisions. As a physician, I've been in the room when there's some difficult conversations happening. I don't want the federal government involved with that at all. I want women, doctors, local political leaders, letting the democracy that's always allowed our nation to thrive, to put the best ideas forward so states can decide for themselves.
So there's Dr. Oz saying that he wants women doctors and local elected officials to help women make these decisions. Apparently, these are decisions by committee, Molly. Your thoughts on what Dr. Oz had to say, especially contrasted with that attack ad in his positions that he made there.
This is him walking back from what he said during the Republican primary. So this is actually his moderate position. You've got his 2019 position and then his really extreme Republican primary position. And now he's on this oh no, I'm not for a national abortion ban. That's basically, I think, what he was trying to say, that he's not for a national abortion ban, which okay. But Pennsylvania does have a movement. And if Pennsylvania loses control of its legislature or of its governorship, there is a very good chance that they could outlaw abortion in Pennsylvania. I made a chart at one point that was states that were sort of in a risky zone, and Pennsylvania is in a risk zone. It's not one of the highest ones for the likelihood to have abortion banned, but it is in a risk zone. So when he's saying that, it should be your local official, he's saying, oh, the states should control this. And I'm not sure. To me, it's I don't want the state of Pennsylvania to be in charge of my uterus any more than I want the United States Congress to be in charge of it. And I sincerely doubt that Oz, if there was enough movement to pass an abortion ban through the U.S. Senate, that he would be the one that would stop it. I mean, maybe if he was like, oh, we have 55 votes against it, we'll let Oz vote against it. But if they were going to pass it and they needed his vote, he would pass a nationwide abortion ban. And just to be clear, that is their intention. They absolutely intend to pass a nationwide abortion ban. Right now, it's a little politically untenable. They don't have, the Congress, they don't have the White House. But they intend on getting those things, and they intend on pushing through a national abortion ban. And they have stacked the courts to make it pretty much have a really good ability to stand up if they pass it. And I feel like, there's been this, what I was afraid of happened, which was after the Dobbs decision, there's just sort of this latency among people well, I guess they don't have it in the South. And that is not their plan. Just to they're starting off slow, and they kind of got lucky with how a lot of these laws are built and how they've been challenged, which is it's sort of this slow trickle. It's okay, we're going to lose Oklahoma, we're going to lose Texas, we're going to lose Kentucky, we're going to lose these states, and it sort of came slow. It wasn't all at once everything shut down. Some of them shut down after 30 days. Some of them had lawsuits and they continued, and some of them, I think Michigan was able to to actually overturn some of their laws that they had. So it's just been a trickle, but it's a significant geographical area. And then it's also a significant number of people that aren't able to access abortion care. And they don't intend on stopping here. And when you say that, if you had taught 10 years ago, people were Roe is Roe, they're not going to be able to stop it. Their goal is to pass all these clinic laws, all these extra laws that are just sort of little chips at Roe. They pass you have to have, your doctor has to be certified at a local hospital, your blah, blah, all these little chips at law. And there was even a case where a lot of those got rolled back. Seemed to be a victory, but the Republicans and the, Christo-fascist rulers of our country, they are playing a long game, and they absolutely intend to outlaw abortion in the United States. So Dr. Oz, which just seems ridiculous to me that he's going to maybe be a senator. But Dr. Oz saying, oh, it should be just local, that is not what they intend to be. And he is in a party and has taken positions that is not what he thinks it should be. And, what he personally believes, I think he's a sociopath, so he doesn't actually have personal beliefs, but what he personally believes, it really doesn't matter, because he's going to go along with whatever is the political wind of the time and whoever is giving him power. And right now that's the Republicans. And they fully intend on passing a national abortion ban. It was one of the first things they did after the Dobbs decision was Lindsey Graham put up the national abortion ban. And I mean, fairly, they do this all the time. They put up this bill all the time, and they knew they had no chance of getting it through this time. But they had no chance of overturning Roe. They had no chance of any of this. 10 years ago, you would have been there's no way. And they did it, and they fully intend to continue doing it. They intend to do this because it is very important to them that they are able to control the lives and the reproductive lives of other people, poor people, essentially. And that is their goal. They know that is how they hold on to control while they're losing control in all other factions of politics. They know that they can if they can control this, they can control a lot. And they have no intention of stopping.
I mean, isn't that what Jesus would do? isn't that exactly what? No, I'm just joking. Wait, so listen, everyone that's watching this right now, it is extremely critical that you really hear Molly right now, because first of all, Molly called this shit back from day, okay? Way before the Jackson case was heard, way before the Alito decision was leaked, Molly said this, and you can look it up, right, Molly? This is documented. Molly called this shit early. So if Molly says that they are going for the full nationwide ban on abortions, you better believe that's the case. And before we circle back to whatever Oz and Fetterman were yammering about, you've piqued my interest here with Pennsylvania and how close it could be that Pennsylvania could potentially, I mean, not this cycle, but it's we're only, an election or two away from potentially
Yeah.
something like that happening. But also Michigan with the abortion ban or the constitutional access to abortion being on the ballot this midterm election. I mean, Molly, like people, you know, like you said, people are comfortable saying that, oh, the abortion restrictions are just down in the South. Well, Indiana's not in the South. Ohio's not in the South. Pennsylvania's not in the South. Michigan's definitely not in the South. What could a worst case scenario shy of a nationwide abortion, like who could be potentially the next dominoes to fall if voters and specifically Democrats and organizers are not actively making sure that abortion access remains available?
You know, I don't really 100% know. There are a lot of states that are on this like kind of orange line of like whether or not, like some of states have like some abortion now. I would say like states that have like really restrictive abortion laws right now, but don't have an outright ban, I would guess those are some of the ones to go, which is, and honestly, I'm sort of embarrassed to admit this, I'm not actually sure if they've actually passed through a ban yet, but Georgia, Florida, and South Carolina are the three that have like very restrictive abortion bans that went into effect after Dobbs, but didn't have outright bans on abortion. My guess would be those would be the next ones to fall. But there's lots of places. There's also like a lot of, so Kentucky, which has an abortion ban, they fought back a bit, it got overturned. There's some back and forth, but right now abortion is banned. They have a constitutional amendment coming up too, where they're trying to say that only the legislature can control abortion law in Kentucky. So they're saying basically like the Kentucky Supreme Court can never come in and say abortion isn't legal. They're trying to make a constitutional amendment that only the legislature can control abortion. And so there's a pretty good fight back against that in Kentucky. It's on the ballot in November. And you know, like as to whether, so there's just a lot of these like little chippings away. So like if they do this in Kentucky, and there's a lot of stuff like this in different states where they're trying to steal away from the courts, that they don't feel like they have total control over the courts. And they're trying to just consolidate this power as much as they can with themselves. And they have no qualms, of course. I mean, like this is my constant refrain against the Democrats is the Republicans have no qualms understanding that politics is about power. And the Democrats seem to think politics is about like, I don't know, making friends. It's like very confusing as to what they think politics is. Politics is about power, and the Republicans understand that. They understand that hypocrisy doesn't matter. They understand that none of this stuff matters. What matters is the acquisition of power, and they are incredibly good at doing it. And there's a lot of states that could go, you know, like the way Virginia, you've got like, I'm sort of embarrassed because I have not kept up on like, at one point I had a list of like who was going which way, but it's so many states.